The crash and the avoidance of the descent wasn't supposed to be this violent. Marcus Chen gripped the controls of his diplomatic shuttle as Zephyr 7's atmosphere tried to tear his ship apart. Alarms screaming in 3 different languages. Warning lights painted his cockpit red. And the stabilizers had given up somewhere around the stratosphere. "Come on," he muttered through gritted teeth. Fighting the stick as the planet's surface rushed up to meet him. Not like this. Not here. The shuttle hit the crimson sand dunes hard enough to rattle his teeth, skipping like a stone across water before finally plowing to a smoking halt. Marcus sat in the sudden silence, ears ringing, tasting copper. His shoulder harness had left bruises, and his left leg throbbed with a pain that promised complications. 2 years, he thought, staring at the purple sky through the cracked viewport. 2 years since I swore I'd never set foot on this planet again. Yet here he was. He dragged himself from the wreckage. Medical kit in one hand, emergency beacon in the other. The twin suns of Zephyr 7 beat down on him as he surveyed the damage. His shuttle looked like crumpled paper. No way it was flying again without a complete rebuild. The nearest outpost was 5 kilometers east, according to his nav device, which was miraculously still functional. Marcus started walking, each step sending jolts of pain through his leg. The crimson sand shifted under his boots, and the air tasted like ozone and something sweet he couldn't identify. An hour later, the outpost emerged from the heat shimmer. A cluster of white buildings with purple banners snapping in the hot wind. He recognized the design, human-Cephrean joint construction. Meant to foster cooperation between their species, the irony wasn't lost on him. The checkpoint gates stood open, and Marcus limped through, expecting to find the usual rotation of human security personnel. Instead, he found himself face to face with someone he'd spent 2 years trying to forget. Nyla stood at the security console, her back to the entrance. She wore the standard outpost uniform, but on her it looked different. Her purple skin had a luminous quality in the filtered light, and her long dark hair was pulled back in an intricate braid that exposed the elegant curve of her neck. Marcus's heart did something complicated in his chest. "I need medical assistance," he said, his voice rougher than intended. "My shuttle crashed about 5 clicks west." Nyla's entire body went rigid. Her hand froze over the console. For a long moment, she didn't move, didn't breathe. Then slowly, deliberately, she turned away from him, presenting her back. "You'll need to register with the main facility," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Follow the path to Building 3." Marcus stared at her purple back in disbelief. "Nyla. That's Officer Nyla. 2 visitors," she interrupted, still not turning. "Please proceed to Building 3 for processing." "Are you serious right now?" He limped forward, moving around to face her, but she turned again, keeping her back to him. "Did you really just—" She turned again. "Stop," Marcus said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "Just stop and look at me. I'm on duty," Nyla replied, her fingers flying over the console without looking at it. "I need to maintain professional protocols. State your identification number for the log." "My identification was in the shuttle that's currently scattered across your desert in very small pieces." Marcus took another step closer, ignoring the pain in his leg. "Look at me, Nyla. I can't, or won't." Her shoulders tensed. "Does it matter?" "Yeah," he said softly. "It really does." Before she could respond, the console erupted in urgent beeping. Nyla finally turned, but toward the screen, not him. Her amber eyes scanned the readouts, and her expression shifted to professional concern. "Unidentified vessels entering atmosphere," she read aloud, her purple fingers dancing across the controls. Multiple signatures. "Scavenger-class ships." Marcus moved beside her to see the screen, close enough now to catch the faint scent of her skin. "Something like rain and electricity." "How many? 3? Nyla's jaw clenched. "They're heading for your crash site." "Of course they are." Marcus laughed without humor. "Salvagers love fresh wrecks. Lots of intact tech to strip and sell if they find evidence of a human diplomat on Zephyr 7 without proper authorization." Ayla said, her voice tight. "They'll come looking. And if they find you here with me, they'll assume you're worth a ransom," Marcus finished. "Or that you're helping me illegally. Either way. Bad for your career." Nyla's hands hovered over the console. He could see the conflict playing across her features, even in profile. the professional officer warring with something else, something she was working very hard to suppress. "I must be out of my mind," she muttered. Finally meeting his eyes for just a fraction of a second before looking away, in that brief glance, Marcus saw a storm of emotions. Guilt, fear, longing, and something that made his pulse quicken. She grabbed a supply pack from under the console and holstered her weapon. "Follow me," she ordered, moving toward a back exit. "Stay close and try not to bleed on anything expensive. There's the Nyla I remember," Marcus said, limping after her, all warmth and compassion save your strength. "Chen," she replied, not looking back. "We have a long walk ahead." "And those scavengers have advanced scanners, so we're surviving," Nyla corrected, pushing through the exit into the harsh sunlight. "There's a difference." As they left the outpost behind, Marcus noticed the faint purple flush creeping up the back of her neck, visible against her darker purple skin. She was affected by his presence, whether she wanted to admit it or not. The question was why she was trying so hard to hide it, and why, after 2 years. Seeing her again felt like coming home and being stabbed at the same time. The crimson desert stretched before them, and somewhere overhead, scavenger ships were descending. Marcus followed Nyla's determined stride, watching her refuse to look back at him. Some things, he thought, grimly, never change, but maybe, just maybe, some things could, if they survived long enough to figure it out. The flight through silver forested the desert gave way to forest within an hour, and Marcus had never been more grateful for shade in his life. The trees here were unlike anything on Earth. Silver bark that seemed to pulse with inner light, and leaves that shimmered purple and blue in the filtered sunlight. Nyla moved through the terrain like she'd been born to it, which she had. Marcus struggled behind her, his injured leg turning every step into a negotiation with pain. "Keep up," she called over her shoulder. Still not looking directly at him. "I'm keeping up," Marcus panted, ducking under a low-hanging branch. "Mostly the scavengers have tracking equipment," Nyla said, her voice all business. "If we don't put enough distance between us and the outpost, they'll pick up our heat signatures, then maybe slow down to injured human speed instead of guilty conscience sprint." Her step faltered for just a moment. "I'm not. You can't even look at me." Nyla. Marcus cut in, frustration finally boiling over. "We're running for our lives, and you're still playing this avoidance game. I'm doing my job. Your job is to escort me while staring at trees." Nyla stopped so abruptly that Marcus nearly crashed into her back. She spun to face him, and for the second time that day, their eyes met. Hers were blazing with anger and something else he couldn't quite name. This close, he could see the intricate patterns in her purple skin, like watercolor strokes in different shades. Could see the way her chest rose and fell with rapid breaths. Could remember exactly what it felt like to... "You want to do this now?" she demanded. "Fine, yes. I've been avoiding you, yes. I knew you were stationed at the Northern Research Facility, yes. I requested this southern posting specifically so our paths wouldn't cross." Happy Marcus blinked. "You've been tracking my assignments." A deeper purple blush spread across her cheeks. "That's not... I just needed to make sure we wouldn't run into each other because you feel guilty because I'm a coward," she snapped. Turning away again, "There's a difference. Now move before those scavengers." A rustling in the undergrowth cut her off. Both of them froze. Nyla's hand went to her weapon as something large moved through the silver trees. What emerged made Marcus's blood run cold. The creature was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with midnight blue scales and too many teeth in a jaw that unhinged like a snake's, its 6 eyes fixed on them with predatory intelligence, and its claws gouged deep marks in the forest floor. "Night Stalker," Nyla whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't move, wasn't planning on it." Marcus breathed back, his heart hammering. "Please tell me you have a plan working on it." The Night Stalker's nostrils flared, scenting the air, then its multiple eyes focused on Marcus. Specifically, on the dark stain spreading across his pant leg where his injury had reopened. "Of course," Marcus muttered. Why wouldn't it smell the bleeding human the creature charged? Nyla fired her weapon, the energy pulse catching it in the shoulder. But the Night Stalker barely slowed. Marcus threw himself left, his legs screaming in protest as Nyla moved right, drawing its attention. "Hey," she shouted. "Firing again over here." "Ugly, that's your plan," Marcus yelled, scrambling behind a tree. "Making it angry? You have a better one." The Night Stalker swiped at Nyla with claws that could disembowel. She rolled under its attack with grace that reminded Marcus exactly why she'd been chosen for special operations. But the creature was fast, already turning for another strike. Marcus spotted a fallen branch. Thick as his arm and solid, he grabbed it. Ignoring every pain signal, his body screamed, "Nyla." Down, she dropped flat without hesitation, that old trust kicking in. And Marcus swung the branch with everything he had. It connected with the Night Stalker's head with a satisfying crack. The creature staggered, shook itself like a wet dog, then apparently decided they weren't worth the trouble. It lumbered back into the forest, leaving destruction in its wake. Marcus dropped the branch and collapsed against a tree. Breathing hard, his vision swam. And he tasted blood. Nyla was beside him in seconds. Her hands hovering over his leg. "You tore it open more," she said, pulling medical supplies from her pack. "You idiot. You're welcome for the save. I had it under control." "Sure you did." He winced as she pressed something cold against his wound. "Just like old times, you getting into trouble." "Me bailing you out?" Her hands paused. "That's not how I remember it, really." Because I distinctly recall, he stopped as her fingers probed the wound with surprising gentleness. "Easy, sorry." Her voice was softer now. "This needs proper treatment. The settlement is still 3 hours away at our current pace. Then I guess we're camping in the wilderness." Marcus tried for levity. "Romantic Marcus," she said. And hearing his first name from her lips after 2 years did something complicated to his chest. After someone's seen your internal organs, first names seem appropriate. A smile tugged at her lips despite everything. "We need to address this wound properly. Is that what we're calling it now?" He raised an eyebrow, addressing wounds. "Because I remember when you addressed my—" "Finish that sentence, and I'll leave you for the Night Stalker." He grinned even through the pain. "There she is, the Nyla, I remember." All threats and fire, she met his eyes again. And this time she held his gaze. "That Nyla got you hurt. Almost got you killed. That Nyla also saved thousands of lives," Marcus said quietly. "I read the reports. The plague, the cure locked in that vault. Everything you did," her expression cracked. Vulnerability bleeding through the professional mask. "You read about it, everything," he confirmed. "How the plague was killing your people. How the cure was locked in a vault that required both human and Zephyrian biometrics to open. How you were assigned to get close to the human diplomat. Don't how you did what you had to do," Marcus continued, reaching up to cover her hand where it rested against his leg. "By making me trust you enough to help Nyla's breath caught." His thumb traced small circles on her purple skin, and he felt her pulse jumping under his touch. "I lied to you," she whispered. "You trusted I'd understand," he replied. "And eventually I did." The moment stretched between them. Fragile and charged, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Even the ever-present sounds of alien wildlife faded to silence. Then a distant engine roar shattered everything. Nyla pulled away, helping him to his feet. "The scavengers. They're closer than I thought. How close? Close enough that we need to move now," she said. But this time, when she started walking, she didn't pull her hand away from his. They moved deeper into the silver forest, and Marcus couldn't help but notice how natural it felt. Her hand in his, even after everything, even after 2 years of silence and avoidance. Their hands fit together like they'd never been apart. "There's a cave system nearby," Nyla said. "An old research station? It's been abandoned for years. But it'll shield us from their scanners. You seem to know this area well. I've had a lot of time to explore." She said quietly. "A lot of time to think about." She squeezed his hand. "About why I couldn't face you. About what I'd say if I ever saw you again. About whether you'd ever forgive me." Marcus wanted to respond. Wanted to tell her that he'd already forgiven her. That he understood impossible choices. That he'd spent 2 years trying to forget her and failing miserably. But the scavenger ships were getting closer. Their engines a growing thunder in the purple sky. So instead, he squeezed her hand back and kept moving. Some conversations, he thought, were worth surviving for. Shelter in the ruins, the research station was carved into a cliff face. All prefab walls and forgotten equipment. Someone had left in a hurry. Supply crates lined the walls. And emergency lights flickered weakly. Home sweet home, Marcus muttered, collapsing onto a bench while Nyla secured the entrance. It'll keep us hidden until morning, she said, activating a scanner jammer from her pack. The scavengers won't detect any life signs here. Convenient. You bring all your deceived humans to this spot, just the stubborn ones who crash land unannounced. Nyla knelt beside him with a medical kit. Shirt off. Usually you buy me dinner first, Marcus, all right? All right, he winced, peeling off his blood-soaked shirt. But for the record, this is our second date. The vault was the first. Nyla's hands hesitated over the medical scanner. That wasn't a date, that was a betrayal. Funny. I remember candlelight. That was a ceremonial flame required for the vault opening. And you held my hand because the biometric lock needed. She stopped, realizing he was smiling. You're impossible and you're stalling. He caught her wrist gently. Talk to me, Nyla, real talk. Why couldn't you look at me? She sat back, the scanner forgotten, in the dim emergency lighting. Her purple skin seemed to glow, because every time I closed my eyes, I see your face when you realized what I'd done. The betrayal, the hurt. She looked down. I told myself it was for my people, that you'd understand that it was worth it. But seeing you at that checkpoint, alive and back on Zephyr 7, her voice cracked. I couldn't face the fact that I'd hurt someone who only ever tried to help me. Marcus was quiet for a moment. You want to know what I remember about that day? Probably how stupid you felt for trusting me. I remember you crying. He tilted her chin up until she met his eyes. After the vault opened and the cure was secured, you came to my holding cell. You weren't supposed to. It violated protocols, but you came anyway. And you cried. Nyla's eyes glistened. You were never supposed to see that. Well, I did. And that's when I knew whatever you'd done was tearing you apart. That's not who you are, Nyla. You're someone who made an impossible choice and has been punishing herself ever since. I got you court-martialed. My career is fine. He smiled crookedly. Better than fine, actually. Turns out sacrificing personal integrity to save an alien species looks great on a service record. They promoted me, called it exemplary diplomatic instincts. She laughed. A surprised sound. What honest truth. Commander Marcus Chen, at your service. He gestured to his bare chest. Though admittedly I've looked more commanding, Nyla picked up the scanner again. I spent 2 years imagining what I'd say if I ever saw you again. Practiced entire speeches, and when you finally saw me, I turned around like a coward. She ran the scanner over his ribs, frowning. This needs more than field treatment. You've got a fractured rib and internal bruising. Add it to my tab, Marcus. I'm serious. So am I. He caught her hand, pulling her closer. 2 years, Nyla. 2 years I've been trying to convince myself that what I felt during our fake date was just adrenaline or naivety. Her breath hitched. And I'm a terrible liar. Even to myself, his hand moved to her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. The second I saw you at that checkpoint, even with your back turned, my heart forgot how to beat properly. That might be the internal injuries, she whispered. But she was leaning closer. It's not the injuries. The space between them barely existed now. Her hair fell forward, curtaining them in their own world. Marcus could feel her breath on his lips, see the flecks of gold in her amber eyes. I don't deserve this, Nyla breathed. I don't deserve you? Maybe not, but I'm stubborn, remember. Can't convince me otherwise, she smiled, and it transformed her face, the guilt melting away to reveal something raw and hopeful. You really are impossible, so I've been told. They were a breath apart when Nyla suddenly pulled back. Alarm crossing her features, the scanner. There's another ship incoming, Marcus groaned. You've got to be kidding me, but Nyla was at the terminal. Pulling up sensors, what she saw made her go still. Marcus, she said, her voice tight with fear. It's a distress beacon from my sister. Nyla's hands trembled on the controls. She's been taken by the scavengers. Confession under purple sky's morning light filtered through the cave entrance. Painting everything in shades of violet, the scavengers had moved to a different sector during the night. But the distress beacon still pulsed on Nyla's scanner. Your sister? Marcus said, watching Nyla pace. Tell me about her, Kessa. She's a medical transport pilot. Nyla's voice was tight. She must have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. The scavengers will want ransom, or they'll strip her ship and sell her to slavers. Nyla's fists clenched. I can't let that happen, Marcus stood, ignoring his protesting ribs. Then we won't. What's the plan? She finally looked at him. Really looked at him. After everything I've done. You'd help me, did you think I wouldn't? Nyla sank onto the bench. I requested this remote posting to punish myself. I thought if I stayed far enough away from everything, from everyone, from you, that maybe the guilt would fade. She laughed bitterly. It didn't. Marcus sat beside her. You know what's funny? That mission, the one where you deceived me, it actually advanced my career. The peace treaty between our species, the medical exchange program, the joint research initiatives, none of that would have happened without what you did, but I hurt you, yeah? You did, he admitted. But you also showed me what real sacrifice looks like. What it means to put thousands of lives above your own happiness. Above your own integrity. Nyla's eyes filled with tears. I spent 2 years hating myself. I spent 2 years trying to forget you, Marcus said quietly. Trying to convince myself that what we had was fake. That the connection I felt was just part of your manipulation. It wasn't, she whispered. The mission was real. The deception was real. But what I felt, she touched his face. That was never fake, I know. He leaned into her touch. I think I always knew. She kissed him then. Soft and desperate and full of 2 years of longing. Marcus pulled her closer, careful of his injuries, tasting salt from her tears and something sweeter. When they broke apart, Nyla rested her forehead against his. We need to save my sister. We will, Marcus promised. But Nyla, I need you to promise me something. What? No more deception, he said. No more sacrificing yourself. If we're doing this, if we're really doing this, then we trust each other completely. She nodded. I promise, no more lies. No more running good, he stood, offering his hand. Now let's go get Kessa back. Nyla took his hand. The scavenger ship is holding position over the eastern valley. They'll have guards, weapons, probably hostages from other raids, so we'll need a plan. I have one, she said, pulling up schematics on her scanner. But you're not going to like it. Marcus studied the layout. We're going to walk right up to them. You're still technically a crashed diplomat without proper authorization, Nyla explained. We offer you as trade once we're inside. We fight our way to Kessa. That's insane. Do you trust me? She asked. And the weight of those words hung between them. 2 years ago, he'd trusted her and been betrayed. But he'd also seen her cry in his holding cell. Seen her sacrifice her own peace for her people's survival. Seen the guilt that had driven her to the edge of the world. Yes, Marcus said simply. I trust you. The relief on her face was almost painful to witness. Thank you, but Nyla, he added, if this goes sideways, if you have to choose between me and Kessa, I won't leave either of you behind. That's not what I'm saying. He cupped her face. Save your sister. That's the priority. Promise me. She kissed him again, fierce and quick. I promise. I'll save both of you. Deal with it despite everything, Marcus smiled. There's that fire I missed. They gathered weapons and supplies. Nyla checking and rechecking every detail. Marcus watched her work. Memorizing the way concentration furrowed her brow. The way her purple skin shifted shades in different light. The way she moved with lethal grace. Stop staring, she said, without looking up. Can't help it. 2 years is a long time, she glanced at him. And something soft entered her expression. Too long will make up for it, Marcus said, after we rescue Kessa. After we deal with the scavengers, after all of this. We'll have time. Promise. Nyla finished her preparations and turned to face him fully. Ready. Marcus checked his borrowed weapon. As I'll ever be, Marcus, she said as they headed for the exit. Thank you for trusting me again. For giving me a chance to prove I'm not just you never were just anything. He interrupted. You were always exactly who you needed to be. Now let's go show these scavengers why that's a problem for them, she smiled. Fierce and beautiful, they stepped out into the purple morning. The scavenger ship, visible in the distance. Marcus knew the odds weren't great. Knew his injuries would slow him down. Knew everything could go wrong, but Nyla's hand was in his. And for the first time in 2 years, that felt like enough. Trust restored and new beginnings. The scavenger ship loomed like a metal beast. All rust and mismatched hull plates, Nyla and Marcus approached with their hands visible. Him limping, her supporting him. Diplomatic vessel, Nyla called out in galactic standard. We have a proposition. A hatch opened. And 3 armed scavengers emerged. The leader, a scarred Vortian with cybernetic enhancements, looked them over with calculating eyes. The crashed human, he said, his translator crackling. Worth more than your purple hide, girl. That's the idea, Nyla replied coolly. He's a commander. High ransom value. I'm offering a trade for what the Zephyrian pilot you took this morning. My sister the Vortian laughed. And why would I trade valuable cargo for cargo I already have? Because... Marcus stepped forward despite his injuries. I'm carrying classified diplomatic codes. Earths for Alliance frequencies, trade routes. Everything you'd need to intercept high-value targets for the next year. The lie came smoothly. Nyla's hand tightened on his arm. A silent question he squeezed back. Trust me. The Vortian's eyes gleamed with greed. Show me inside, Marcus said. The codes are encrypted. Biometric locks. I'll need your ship's systems to access them. It was a weak story. Full of holes, but greed made people stupid. The Vortian gestured them forward. They were escorted through narrow corridors, past cells holding other captives. Marcus counted guards, exits, weapon placements. Beside him, Nyla did the same, her breathing steady. The Vortian led them to a command deck. Access your codes, Marcus. Approach the console. Fingers moving over the controls. This will take a moment. The encryption is complex. You have 2 minutes. Nyla positioned herself near the door. Casual, unassuming, Marcus caught her eye in the reflection of the screen. She nodded once. Actually, Marcus said. Spinning and firing the weapon he'd palmed from his belt. I lied about the codes. Chaos erupted. Nyla dropped the guard at the door, her movements precise and lethal. Marcus took out the Vortian with a shot to his cybernetic core. 2 more guards rushed in. And Nyla met them with a combination of gunfire and hand-to-hand that was beautiful in its efficiency. Kessa, Nyla shouted over the alarms, where a voice called from down the corridor. Detention level. Cell 7, they fought their way through the ship. Marcus covering their rear despite his injuries, Nyla leading with unwavering focus. When they reached the detention level, she blasted open Cell 7. A young Zephyrian woman with purple skin and Nyla's eyes stumbled out. Nyla, I've got you. Nyla embraced her sister quickly. Can you walk? Yes? Who's he later? Nyla said. Right now we run. They raced back through the ship. Grabbing other captives along the way, the scavenger crew was in disarray, and Nyla used every bit of chaos to their advantage. They burst from the ship into the purple morning. A stolen shuttle warming up nearby. Go, Marcus shouted. Laying down covering fire, Nyla hesitated. Ah! Marcus, I'm right behind you. You promised we'd have time, she said fiercely. And we will, he returned fire, at pursuing scavengers. But your sister needs you now. Go for a moment. He thought she'd refuse. Thought she'd stay and fight beside him. Instead, she grabbed his face and kissed him hard. Don't you dare die. Wasn't planning on it. She ran for the shuttle with Kessa and the others. Marcus held the line until they were aboard, then sprinted for the loading ramp. Energy blasts scorched the ground around him. His injured leg nearly gave out, but he pushed through the pain. Nyla was there at the ramp. Reaching for him, their hands clasped, and she pulled him aboard as the shuttle lifted off. They collapsed together on the deck, breathing hard. The shuttle climbed away from the scavenger ship, and through the viewport, Marcus watched it shrink into the distance. You cut that close, Nyla said, still holding his hand. Adds to the drama, Kessa appeared above them, so this is the famous Marcus. The one you've been moping about for 2 years. Nyla's purple skin flushed darker. Kessa what? Do you think I didn't notice? Kessa smiled. I'm glad you found him again. Or he found you, a bit of both, Marcus said, sitting up with Nyla's help. The shuttle's autopilot carried them toward the main settlement. Emergency services would meet them there. The other rescued captives were already celebrating their freedom. What happens now? Nyla asked quietly. Just for Marcus. Well, he said. I need to file a report about my crash. Arrange for a new shuttle. Extend my diplomatic mission, extend it. I was thinking Zephyr 7 could use a permanent Earth embassy, Marcus said, watching her face, and I was thinking I could request reassignment to run it. Nyla's eyes widened. You'd stay if you want me to, She looked at her sister, at the freed captives. At the purple sky beyond the viewport, yes. I want you to stay. Then it settled. Marcus leaned back, exhaustion finally catching up, though I'm requesting better landing protocols. My arrival this time was rough. Nyla laughed, the sound free and genuine. I'll make sure the landing pads are ready, Nyla, he said. Serious now. No more running, no more avoiding. We do this honestly or not at all. She intertwined her fingers with his. Honestly, I promise, Kessa cleared her throat. You two are disgustingly sweet. I approve. The settlement came into view. White buildings against crimson sand, purple banners waving in the wind. Marcus had crashed here expecting nothing but bad memories. Instead, he'd found something worth staying for. Nyla rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you. For trusting me again? Thank you for being worth it, he replied. The shuttle descended toward home. And for the first time in 2 years, the word felt right. Not Earth, not duty, not obligation. Just home, because home, Marcus realized, wasn't a planet or a place. It was the purple-skinned woman beside him. Finally able to meet his eyes without guilt. Finally able to smile without shadows. It was trust restored and second chances. It was sunrise on an alien world that no longer felt alien at all. The shuttle landed smoothly and together. They stepped out into their future.